Hello, this is your photosynthesis study guide. First, we're going to start with the photosynthesis equation. On the left, we have six molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water. A little light energy is added into that, and on the right, we end up with C6H12O6, which is glucose, and 6 molecules of oxygen. So carbon dioxide and water in, and glucose and oxygen out. Now we're going to move on to the beginning of the light reaction on the next slide. The little picture is showing you that inside of a cell you have a chloroplast, and inside that you have a stack of thylakoids called a grana, and inside the membrane of the thylakoid you have chlorophyll molecules that are together in photosystems. And the chlorophyll molecules are going to absorb light energy, a photon of light energy, and that is going to excite an electron. That's kind of how the energy gets from the light into the plant. On the next side, if we look at the picture, we're still in the thylakoid membrane. On the left, you have that light energy coming in and exciting that electron. That electron gets passed from chlorophyll A molecule to chlorophyll A molecule within the photosystem, and then it gets passed into the primary electron acceptor. The primary electron acceptor then passes it on to the electron transport chain. As it moves through the electron transport chain, the electron loses energy. And as it loses energy, that energy is used to pump protons across the thylakoid membrane. At the same time, in photosystem 2, light energy is also being absorbed. Exciting electrons handed on to primary electron acceptor, handed on to another electron transport chain that is also used to pump protons across, and ultimately it ends up on the side of the thylakoid membrane, and the energy is used to make NADPH out of NADP. So out of this process we end up with protons on the inside of the membrane and NADPH. In order for the photosystems to get electrons, since they're constantly losing electrons to the primary electron acceptor, they have to get them from someplace. Photosystem 1 gets its from photosystem 2. They just pass straight from photosystem 2 into photosystem 1. In order for photosystem 2 to get electrons, there is something called a water splitting enzyme that takes 2 molecules of water, as you can see in this picture, and splits it and gets an electron out of that it passes on to photosystem 2. Out of that process, we also get some hydrogen and some oxygen, and this is where water goes into this whole process and how we get oxygen out that breathes out of the plant eventually. Where did the energy end up? Well, when we pumped the protons across the membrane with that electron energy, those protons are not going to want to stay there. They're going to want to go back. And what they do is they're going to move back through an ATP synthase, this little purple blob that's in the middle of this membrane in the picture. An ATP synthase will receive that energy from the proton as it moves back, and will use that energy to make ATP out of ADP. So in the end, we're going to end up with some ATP molecules, and if you remember back, we also have some NADPH molecules. Both are energy storage molecules that will move on to the next step. We're out of the light reaction now into the Calvin cycle. So we have ATP and NADPH coming into this cycle. We also have some carbon dioxide. The ATP and NADPH are not stable long-term storage solutions for the energy, so we need to fix that. So we take some carbon dioxide and a 5-carbon compound that's going to come about from this whole cycle. We take those two things and we add in some ATP and some NADPH, and that energy is used to create 6 3-carbon sugars. Most of those 3-carbon sugars are going to stay in the cycle. That's where they came from in the very beginning of the cycle. But one of those 3-carbon sugars leaves the cycle, and that part is used to create an organic compound, which is generally glucose. Okay, so let's summarize. We have in front of us a chloroplast, and within this chloroplast on the left we have a stack of thylakoids called a grana, which is where the light reaction happens. In the light reaction, we have light and water entering the reaction, and we have oxygen exiting the reaction. We also are producing NADPH and ATP. You notice that stays within the chloroplast and goes into the Calvin cycle. Into the Calvin cycle, we have carbon dioxide coming in, and outgoing we have organic compounds like glucose. We also have NADP and ADP, which are going to cycle through to the light reaction and then eventually back to itself again. So this is the process of photosynthesis. Remember, you do not need to know every single little detail about this process. All you really need to know are the basics, and you need to have a basic understanding. Good luck.
created using Powtoon.